Happy Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, let's nerd out on some location-independent business goodness as we do. Today's guest is in progress. It's a relatively new business. And I think the way I'm watching him apply fresh ideas to a relatively new service business is inspiring and interesting. So let's get to it today. Today's guest is Brian O'Connor. He's the co-founder of TalentHQ, which is a recruiting agency placing Latin American project managers into U.S. businesses. Brian is fully nomadic. He built the business with a co-founder and now a largely AI-based operation. So when Brian first quit his corporate job and went fully nomadic, he spent his first 3 years building a really large social media following. So nearly 40,000 Twitter followers and some posts with millions of views, but he almost made no money from it despite launching many products into that audience. So the turning point for him was he stopped chasing these clever ideas and decided to start running a boring business where the product market fit has already been demonstrated out there. So his first point of proof was he had all these failed launches into his large social media audience. And instead, he talked to a friend who had a need and decided that other people in his network might have the need. And so in just a few weeks, he sold $20,000 of recruiting services off of a single Google Doc with no website. And he was also white labeling somebody else's delivery. So this reminds me of the early days of our business where forget about delivery. I just need to know if I can sell this thing. If I can sell it and there's margin there, I'll figure out the delivery side of it. So there's some things to look for in this conversation. The first is the difference between going viral and going sales viral. So Brian is a big fan of Charlie Munger. He put out a post when he died that got 4.2 million views, but it resulted in 0 sales. He compares that with a niche video that he posted that got 7 likes and 4 sales calls. And these are relatively high dollar sales. He also will share how he turned his podcast into his #1 acquisition channel. So you get to see the strategy of targeting your ICP via a podcast as a way to generate sales calls. And he reported to me that right now, as we stand in June of 2026, Brian has more leads than he can currently process. So that is the current bottleneck in his business. We'll also talk about how they've gone all in on AI, reducing their headcount from 8 down to 2, plus some freelancers. So they're really aggressive about turning their recruiting workflow into something that AI can solve instead of humans. There's a lot of themes in this conversation, but one is if you're hunting for the next clever idea, you might be ignoring the boring, profitable idea right in front of you. So I'm excited to bring this conversation to you and also excited to shout out our sponsor, Wavefront, the operating system for productized agencies. So many listeners of this show depend on Wavefront. You can find out more about them at wavefront.com/TMBA. Check that out if you run a productized service agency, which I know many of you do. So big shout out to the team at wavefront.com. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Brian O'Connor. There are a portion of our audience who's trying to identify ideas, and they are putting things online and getting reactions and things. And I just want you to walk us through, now you have this business where you're making money, you're traveling around. What did that transition feel like?
I think for the first 3 years, let's call it, I had this belief. I think I heard the whole Gary V jab, right hook or whatever, give, you'll get back in return. I think I believe that so much that I only focused on building my audience for 3 years. But during that time, I tested a ton of ideas. I would do a product launch and I probably did 10 product launches, right? And I think the biggest difference between then and now is probably the type of business as it was. I kind of think of business on a spectrum in terms of okay, one side is you're testing the idea. You don't know if there's product market fit. That's what I was doing before, which is I'm trying to find new ideas, find a market for it, make sure it fits, etc. Now I'm doing what I like to call the boring businesses of the internet, right? Which is a recruiting business. You don't have to test product market fit for a recruiting business. People need people, right? And so there's no testing there. And so you don't win on product market fit, you win on marketing. And so like, for me, the moment that I switched over from trying to test all these kind of ad hoc ideas in Thailand to actually having a boring business of the internet where I don't have to actually test product market fit. Like I know there's product market fit. I just need to get my message out there and do the marketing. That for me was a much easier switch. The market is harder because it's competitive, but I don't mind competition because you just got to get really good at marketing.
So how do you face down this idea that like, oh man, if I want to be Kobe Bryant, I got to start with like the footwork. I just got to start selling stuff that's proven.
It came out of frustration for me, where it was just like 3 years of just like trying all these product market fit style businesses. And then finally just having an opportunity. I had a buddy reach out from Twitter who was like, hey, I'm starting this business, which is a recruiting business. Can you take a look at my offer and make sure it makes sense? And so I took a look at it and I was like, hey, wait a second. At the time I was doing marketing consulting, right? And so I was like building out these marketing systems, which a system is 3 things: is people, process, and technology. My focus in marketing systems was the process and tech part, not the people part. And so my friend reached out and was like, hey, we're going to put marketers into businesses. I was like, hey, this is the last piece I'm missing for my business. Let me try it. And so I decided to do a joint venture with him. Kind of had excitement that it was like a boring business. I had a frustration of trying and testing these like new ideas, like these product market fit style businesses. And then it took off. I mean, we sold $20K from a Google Sheet in 2 weeks.
What does the Google Sheet look like and how are you selling stuff?
For that first stage, it was literally just what we did was it was a Google Doc where we wrote down like, hey, we're going to do this for you. But we started with our warmest people. So he wrote down everyone he knew. I wrote down everyone we knew. And we like put check marks next to who we reached out to. And I sent whatever, 50, 60, 70 texts a day, right? Just going through one by one and being like, okay, hey Dan, I launched this new business. Want to give you an update. Like, would you take a look at it? Do you know anyone interested? And we just went through that. He did that. I did that. We went through our list. We went through like 100 people each. And that was enough to get 20K in sales off the ground. We used that to start kind of building the system. And the thing we did there is like, we didn't have a website. We just used a Google Doc. We also didn't have delivery. So we just white labeled someone, right? We just wanted to prove that this was a good idea. And so like, just so we could get started right away, we went to another recruiting agency and said, hey, can we just white label you guys? And so we had the delivery taken care of by someone else, and we had the Google Doc and just reached out to a bunch of people.
Was it like your network that was the offer tweak? So it was like a standard recruiting offer to people that you know, and that was the nexus? Or was there something slightly different that you were testing at the time?
It's not anything fancy. It's, I know you need people. Do you need people now or do you need people later? Like every business needs people. And so I don't have to test that. It's a timing problem, right? And so I just reached out to as many people as I could and be like, hey, we've got this idea. Do you know anyone who needs help? And that's such an easy ask, because if you say, do you know anyone who needs help? They either think of themselves or they think of someone else.
Respect. Could you bring us into this idea of the podcast funnel and how those of us with service businesses might be able to execute it on our behalf? Like, how did you conceive of this idea, and how much does it cost to create this kind of result, and what results do you get by going on a podcast a day?
Probably the best way to start is we spent, so year one-ish of the business was, hey, I have a social presence. Let me reach out to all my friends and like try to get sales, right? As I mentioned. But it's kind of random, right? You post on socials, as people may or may not sign up. It's hard to scale. And so we spent all last year trying and failing miserably to get a consistent acquisition channel. We did Google ads for 5 months. We did YouTube. I went to Bulgaria and did like a YouTube boot camp trying to scale YouTube, Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube. What else did we try? Outbound. This is stupid. I didn't understand outbound at the time, but I did email outbound, LinkedIn DMs, etc. We tried everything, right?
Was everything kind of no results and it was still the personal network that was driving it?
Correct. The only way we grew was from referrals. So we had a personal network of referrals. We have a few clients who have hired between 20 and 30 folks. And so they've really scaled the business. And so we're able to use that to like reinvest it all. And then them referring folks. And so we kind of used that to coast last year, let's say, until we went to DC Bangkok. in November of last year. And I saw Davis talk about his podcast funnel.
Davis Wynn.
Yeah, Davis Wynn. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's go and do it. And we used my account on LinkedIn and we started booking 3 to 5 podcasts a day.
Okay, explain to me how it works, if you don't mind.
So how it works is you reach out to folks doing outbound, right? Reaching out on LinkedIn, reaching out on email, whatever we do, LinkedIn. We reach out to folks who are in our target prospects. They hop on the podcast and we genuinely, like, I put so much on the podcast. It's a genuinely amazing podcast. The point of it is an excuse to start a relationship with someone who also happens to be your target customer, right? I think because I frame it that way, it doesn't feel salesy, because it's not. Like, it's an excuse for someone who, yes, happens to be someone who could buy, but it's just a great relationship, you know?
If people are thinking about this concept, like, how would you formulate a show that is beneficial to them to come on?
The way we formulated it is a scaling podcast. So it's about talking about businesses who are at that moment of scale. And what I mean by that is like what I was talking before about product market fit. Well, 0 to 1 million is roughly trying to figure out your product market fit.
Right.
You're duct taping everything together. You don't have systems, blah, blah, blah. Then it hits a point where you switch over into systems building, right? That's what I call scale mode, right? Usually, whatever, 2, 3 to 5, etc. Where you're like, hey, I got to hire people. I got to put in technology. I got to put in processes to really scale this business. That aha moment, that oh shoot moment, that moment where we go, oh shoot, we got to actually like organize this thing. That's what the whole podcast is on, which also happens to be a great point, like a great moment.
It's interesting, this kind of idea of like a relationship nurturing podcast. I think people would be surprised about how you don't need to like represent a lot of listeners, correct? Like what are the reasons that people are going to be willing, like these founders that are the type of founders that, by the way, like businesses are all trying to sell to them because they're a great market. What do you need to represent to them in order to get them onto the podcast in terms of listenership or branding, or what are the things that matter to them?
I don't think anyone has asked me about listenership. The way that we've done it is like, I think it's a lead magnet, right? It's a lead magnet. It's also an excuse to build a relationship, to your point. And once they know what we do, I don't have to like tell them repeatedly. Like they know what I do. And if we stay nurtured, like I want to stay top of mind. They'll think of me when we go to recruit. But you're like, okay, well, how do we convince someone to get on a podcast? Do you get those emails where people reach out for podcasts? Like I get them all the time now.
I get it. I've received tens of thousands of them.
Yeah. And they're all obviously super salesy.
Well, the thing it's almost like a pointless question to ask, but I've always wondered, like, why aren't they better if there's so many of them?
Yeah. And I think the answer is, what I figured out, most people trying to do marketing on channels suck, right? And so the few that figure it out are the few that really scale. The way that we've done it is I put so much into it. So like when you go on my podcast, you get Spotify, Apple Podcasts, cross promotion on LinkedIn. We make 3 LinkedIn posts with your video as a short and a full post. We also give you a content calendar so you can distribute to your team. Like there's it's almost like a marketing course with a distribution platform and a content creation team, like supporting you the whole time, right?
It's not just about the listenership, but it's also like you're handing them a certificate and a trophy, right? It's like, hey, look at me. I was on this podcast about scaling, which is valuable to people. Even if you have like 50 listeners, it would be of value. Because, hey,
Correct.
50 people is nothing to sneeze at, especially in a target market. But also the fact that you have the vast majority of founders do not have followings. And so now all of a sudden I can go to my personal Facebook profile, my LinkedIn profile, and say, look at this. I was on Brian's show.
Yeah. And I think that's cool. But the other thing is, like, remember, I spent the first few years only learning how to get attention on the internet, right? Not necessarily building business, but getting attention on the internet. And there's a huge difference between obviously views and sales. And so now what we do is I've totally switched from like, I've had posts that have gotten millions of views and they get 0 calls on the back end, right? And so what we do now is we make those posts. So like maybe you and I will chat, and I'll have a few things we'll have shorts that are related to your business, or shorts related to mine. But we put them in DMs, and then we can run ads to the target market using those shorts. And so they're way more targeted to actually have the outcome I want to have. And socials for me are now like, hey, this person's alive and this person's smart, but not necessarily using it to get crazy reach, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What is the difference between content that simply gets attention versus drives sales intent in your view at this point?
Huge difference. Yeah. So to put in perspective, when Charlie Munger died, as an example, I'm a huge Charlie Munger fan. I read his books, all that kind of stuff. And so I wrote a post about like how his philosophies made me think different. That post got 4.2 million views. And I've had a few like that, and some of them got me on news stations, that kind of stuff. That's great. Social proof, awesome. But almost all of them have 0 sales and 0 calls on the back end, right? But the next week I posted one that was like super niche, me hopping on the camera and being like, hey, here's how you position your business, right? Also, FYI, I do the same thing. Let's chat. I think I got like 7 likes, of which 4 sales calls in the back end, And so there's a direct inverse correlation between, at least in my stuff, the more reach it gets, the worse it does on the back end metrics that I actually care about. And so the differences between them is like, if you want something to go viral, it has to resonate with a lot of people. The more people it resonates with, the more viral it goes. The more people it resonates with, it's because more general, which means that it's going to kind of resonate with a bunch of people, but not really resonate with a few people. And those are different.
What is like an example of the going sales viral? Could you give us a framework for developing low high phone call results?
I did have one get 3,000 likes that was high sales, but that's the exception, not the rule. That one was a lead magnet. So it was like, hey, I have these consulting calls, comment this if you want it to. And a bunch of people commented, 3,000 people reached out, drove a bunch of sales in pipeline. That was one example. Like lead magnets work. They're great. They're awesome. But if you're just talking organic posts that aren't lead magnets per se, probably the post that got me the most was a video. Videos build trust more than anything else. The video was like me just explaining how to position your business. And so part 1 was the angle, the hook, the framing, saying like, if you're this type of person, calling them out, here's why you should care. Here's the instruction, and here's the CTA in the back end. And that post drove me, 7 likes and 4 sales calls, something like that.
And that's a lot of money for you.
Yeah.
In the end. That's very cool.
A lot of people will make a lead magnet, but the next problem will be connected to the business. And so like, that doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah. And so like for folks listening, if you have whatever, think about the core function your business solves, right? Whether it's, for you guys, it's a community, for us, it's recruiting, whatever it is. If you can go back a step and think, what's the problem your business solves today? And then what's the problem before the problem, right? Like what's the problem where if you solve it, your new problem is what your business solves. That's what you make a lead magnet around. And the idea is if you can make that lead magnet so valuable that people actually pay for it, people want to do it. And so for us, the podcast is kind of a lead magnet. I mean, it is a lead magnet, but it doesn't actually meet the definition that I just told you because like it's a podcast. And so I solve like a content and marketing problem. But I'm still able to get in front of the right people and keep top of mind for the sale.
He does personal finance, so he'll do a podcast where he demonstrates his prowess as a personal finance person. He's like, look, if you want to like do your personal finances like on the show, download my spreadsheet that allows you to do this. And so you give them all your information, you download the spreadsheet.
Yeah, like we're playing with one right now. So we're reworking ours. So one thing we're doing now is we're niching down, which is going to be, I'm very excited. And yeah, like what industry is that? What role is that? For us, we found it's what I'll call the generalist operator, right? Some people call it the project manager role. Some people call it that account manager role. that blend, we're figuring out which blend of that per se, but we're targeting agencies who just need 20, 30 account managers or 20, 30 project managers, and offering team packages, right? And so what we're trying to figure out is how we can get the metrics as high as we can. So that's, I think we were nerding out about this earlier. Like, I'm obsessed with LTV to CAC. How can I get that as high as possible? And also, we don't have recurring right now. We have a placement industry business.
Yep.
And so we're adding on an offer for MRR so we can handle the ups and downs a little more. And so right now, our LTV to CAC, or the lifetime value of a client over the acquisition costs, is about 4 times, right? Mm-hmm. On average is 8 times, but there's some big guys that really drive that up. Most of our deals are 4x. We want to get that minimum 10x. And so we're creating a new offer now. We're niche down. Minimum want to make 10x our money on every client. And also add an offer that is recurring to make sure that our revenue is consistent over time.
Like, what does making 4 times your money mean to you, and how can we apply it?
It's, I want to recover my customer acquisition costs in 30 days, which we have right now.
Which means you have to have a healthy deposit, essentially. Like, you can't have terms or like some membership that takes, X number of years to materialize in your bank account.
Yeah. And so like the goal for us is 2x your CAC in less than 30 days. That's the Hormozy gold standard, let's call it. We do that. So ours is, we charge $5,000 higher, and we charge that day one. And so we recover to that check, right? That's great. Then the next thing is like, okay, if you recover your 1 to 2 extra CAC in 30 days, that means you can like take that, reinvest it to acquire another customer. Awesome. And so you go, okay, the next thing I look at is the business healthy? So for me, I run an agency. And so last year, 80% gross, 30% net was the target. But I think AI has totally changed that.
Okay.
And so I don't know what the new target is. But for us, I mean, maybe we double that. Like, I think we can get 50, 60% net now, which is crazy. And not this year. Like, I think it'll take me time to get there, but like, I think our margin goals are double what they were before. Which is pretty wild. Wow. Yeah, for us, we're looking to build a team as much as possible. So if you get project managers who want 5, 10, 15 folks, that's where we play. And so it's AI-tizable, but it still takes a lot of us being in there and figuring it all out. On the metric side, so there's recover 2x your CAC in 30 days, margins, gross 80%, net 30. That's, I guess, minimum for agencies, which, and then last thing I look at is that LTV to CAC. And so what is like LTV, in this case is lifetime gross profit rather than lifetime value, but it's like, how much do you make after your delivery expenses over the lifetime of a client? And that at minimum should be, call it 4x, which is what we're at right now. But I want to get it over 10. And so for every $1 I put into acquiring a customer, I want to get 10 times my output. And we're getting that. We do have 3 clients who are at 20, 21x. And that's where we're niching down. This is only on the clients that we're getting 20, 21x our CAC.
So that's where we're at right now in terms of your acquisition, which is like, you're kind of modeling the behaviors that you hope to hire for someday and replace
Correct.
Yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So where we're at right now is we have 4 LinkedIn accounts doing outbound. Each account generates roughly, once it's warmed up and ready, 1 call per account per weekday. We've seen weekdays do better. Yeah. And we are just getting accounts as many as we can. So right now the problem last year was, hey, we can't get the right person on the phone. Now the problem this year is it's great. It's moved down. We've solved that problem, created a new one, which now we can get I can add on a bunch of LinkedIn accounts and scale that way. I'm not ready for that yet because I've got a bottleneck a little further down. So I want to still keep four accounts running.
What was the challenge with that, Brian?
God, that was a year of work. It just, I think figuring out the offer, and the offer in this case was like a podcast, right? But when I tried outbound on LinkedIn a year ago, we hired 3 BDRs. This is why our margins were so bad. I hired 2 BDRs and a BDR manager. Each one of them did 100 touches a day, right? And 100 touches is like messages, connection requests, whatever. And we got 0. I think I had 1. If we did this for 3-4 months, I think I had 1 call. And so the aha moment we had.
Yeah. What's the aha moment?
The offer. Like, there's 2 versions of LinkedIn outbound. In version 1, it's, hey, do you want to hire for me? Right? Like, hey, you look like you need to hire. Do you want to hire from me? Like, that was version 1. We sent 100 a day per person, right? So we're talking whatever, 500-800 touches a week with 1 call a month, right? Like, that just doesn't work. And any channel works. You just got to figure it out. Like, we just didn't figure it out. And so what we did instead was, this time we're still doing the same channel, like reaching out on LinkedIn, but the difference is, like, instead of saying, hey, do you want to hire from us? You don't know me. And like, you don't know if you can trust me or not, but do you want to hire from me? Right? Like, that doesn't work. But instead, now what we're doing is like, hey, saw your profile, you impressed me. Can I interview you on my podcast? By the way, here's the podcast. Here's all the cool guests have been on it. I'm going to make you content for free. I'm going to have, like, you're going to get LinkedIn posts. I'm going to make the post for you. You're going to have YouTube shorts, like all this stuff. Like, do you want a content team building you an ecosystem of content for free?
Right.
And people are like, yeah.
So how did the conversions change once you started offering them something that they actually wanted?
I think, yeah, because it's like, there's a trust recession, right? Where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to trust you, right? And so, like, you have to build trust, and it takes time. And I think if you want to sell something today and just shoot it, it's hard. I think if only 3% of buyers are ready to buy it at any given moment. And so if you're shooting for that 3%, it's really hard. And like, that 3% is like the most attacked group. But what if you just build trust first? And like, create an offer that is so good that people pay money for it normally. And so you think about, like, what the difference was, is that, like, I'm building you I've got a content team building you a content across multiple platforms for weeks, and you can use it however you want. And so the most common question I get is, how much does it cost? You know?
That's amazing. It's an undeniable offer. Yeah, I want to talk about my business. I want to get the content for free. So it's an undeniable offer. And as long as you are qualifying who you make the offer to appropriately, then you're going to win as well.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned what it feels like that problem I've been trying to do for like a year and a half, 2 years, more years, you know, and that problem specifically is, how do I get the right person on the phone? And I just, like, finally figuring that out has felt amazing. And so now, like, we have other problems for sure.
So going from MQL to SQL, by finding a gem somewhere. And if you can get excited about the gems, then you can unlock these incredible business results. Gotcha. Let's ask the question that you asked down in Mexico in a workshop, which was essentially, should I IAtize my business? Walk us through, like, your kind of Rubicon moment. You know, you mentioned last year you had 8 team members. And what was, like, pre and post AI thinking for you, and how did you come about to kind of getting Claude pilled and jumping into the deep end?
It started with, we had to let a recruiter go, probably like 6 months ago, let's call it. And we were like, okay, let him go. We run a recruiting agency. Let's run through the process. Let's hire a recruiter, right? And Martina, my co-founder, looked at me and was like, wait, hold on. What if we just don't hire a recruiter? Like, what if we just like, I heard about this AI stuff. We haven't gotten into it much yet. What if we just do that? I was like, I don't know what that means, but let's try it, right? So I'm in Playa, right? Just inhaling coffee, didn't leave my apartment for months. I came out and was like, I've AI-tized everything. And I think it was one of those things where like, it seemed intimidating. It's like, open the terminal and like watch code go through, like it's the Matrix, right? Like it's like intimidating stuff. I'm not technical, I'm a business guy.
Right.
But I'm like, I can do it, let's do it. And I think the first thing we try to do is an EA, right? I'm a nomadic entrepreneur. I was like, what if I just like make an EA that can handle our travel?
Right.
Right? Book calendar meetings for me, handle the emails, etc. And I think that was my, call it red pilled or blue pilled, whatever, pilled moment where I realized how much I could do. And I was like, what if I do this? And what if I do this? I just kept adding. And it got to the point where we had just kind of everything.
Well, tell me when you say everything, what does that mean, and how you compare how you guys operate versus some other entrepreneurs that you see that, kind of use it as like a Google on steroids. You're really integrating it with your data. And so how might you replace a recruiter using an AI system?
Yeah. And so I think one of the differences that I did versus most folks is I was like data first. I think if you don't look at the data side, like it's just a chatbot. And so what I had to figure out was like, okay, what if I built this database that had all the information in the business, right? So like so the problems I have are like, on the sales and marketing side, the CRM stuff I was telling you about, which is like Brian has ADHD and is going to lose all these leads. What if instead every email that we got, every Slack we got, every message we got, all fed into this database, and the agent would just pop up and update leads as they came? So sales and marketing side guys are getting taken care of, right? On the recruiting side, I was like, well, it's just a system. We run ads on LinkedIn, we run ads on Facebook. What if we ran all of our ads data into the central database? And then we could have a feedback loop that said, whenever we hire someone, we point back the ad and say, that was a successful one, let's do more of that. And so now we have this ongoing learning from that funnel of candidates where we just store a ton of data on which cities were the best, what ad angles worked well, which platform got us folks, which like roles, etc. So we did that for every stage of the business, because I just see business as like a funnel, a flow, which is like from the second you take a stranger who gives you money to do these set of activities, it's a workflow. And so what if we can just like fix this workflow to get agents doing that, have access to all the data your business has, if that kind of makes sense. And I can get into specifics if that's.
No, I think I think what you're pointing to is how can you give access of the core data that matters in your business to AI? And I think that is a real challenge.
And maybe like the way I thought about it was in levels, which is like level one is like you use it like a chatbot, right? You use like Claude Chat, you use like whatever, ChatGPT, and ask your questions. Cool. Then level two for us was like, okay, use it as a chatbot, but that chatbot knows about your business. And so that's where you've got your Hive or I call it Jarvis because I'm a nerd, right? But like, but my database where it's got all the information about it. It's like, cool. Now you've got like a chatbot that is specific to your business. And then obviously the next level is that chatbot acts, right? And like does things for you using, right? But then it's like, okay, but that's not leverage. That's just like more transparency. So what? And so I thought about how do I get leverage? And leverage for me is like, I do something once, it happens for me a bunch of times. And so that's where we use something called cron jobs. I see leverage. But the next level is, what if you can build agents that build the system? And so that's where OpenClaw comes in. That's where Hermes comes in. That's where like agents come in. And that's the level we're at now, which is like when I was at your conference, I was at the cron job level.
All right, cool. Any final parting words of wisdom for those that might be like you were in Thailand looking to make that jump and start making real money from anywhere in the world?
I didn't really start learning until I actually tried a business. Like, and it sounds crazy, but everything I learned today that gets me so excited, those boring problems that we're talking about, I knew in the first few months of entrepreneurship. Right? It's not rocket science. Like, I don't think I learned it other than like LTV to CAC and that kind of stuff, right? Those are like obscure things. I don't think there's a ton of net new things I learned, but it's just different when you're trying it. And so I don't think I really started learning business until I took my shot at the recruiting agency. Like, I think all those years doing content and trying to like find product market fit and do that kind of stuff, I learned internet attention, which was super useful. But I think just getting into it was the best thing I could do.
Very cool. Brian O'Connor, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. We appreciate your time.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you.